Looking back at your career, if you just pick out sort of the highlights, how it all started and really the moments that stand out for you.
Well, for me it started, I suppose, pretty late from what the young boys do today. I mean, everybody knows now that kids are taken from 5, 6, 7, 8 into professional clubs. I was picked up by Birmingham City, just about to leave school. I had a couple of months left at school, 16 years of age. I lived in the Midlands, so I was playing for Nuneaton schools. And just after one of the games, a scout called Don Dorman, who was very well known in the area, spoke to me after the game and asked me if I'd go to a trial to Birmingham City. So I went along a couple of times to their training ground, played in a couple of trial games, and then after that was invited to, when I left school, was invited to sign for them on apprenticeship forms for 2 seasons. So that's really how it started for me. It all went very well for the first season. Jim Smith was the manager. Start of the second season, I was signed a pro contract for him at the end of the first season, was subbed for the first team. Then Jim Smith got the sack. I picked up an injury, ankle injury. Ron Saunders came in, and by the end of the second season, I was released. So from it all seeming as if it was going in the right direction, it fell apart very, very quickly. I went to Oxford the following pre-season with Jim Smith, who was obviously just the manager at Birmingham for 3 weeks. And then while we was doing the pre-season there, he said to me that Dave Bassett was after a left back at Wimbledon, who were in the old 3rd division. So I went there. Initially it was for a couple of weeks, but I ended up staying there for 4 years. So very successful. I was Player of the Year for every season, 4 seasons running. And then at the end of that 4th season, as we got up into which was the old Division 1 then, the top division, I signed for Arsenal. And that's really, I suppose, then when my career starts to take off in terms of trophies won. And I suppose in a way what a lot of people remember, not myself, but the back 4 that I played under, because it played together for such a long time. So that's pretty much the sort of highs and lows of how quickly things can turn around for you. Because as I said to you, a young kid, things were going well. Then 6 months later, I basically was without a job. I was without a club. So it shows how frail football can be sometimes.
Yeah, you need a certain sense of belief in yourself in order to carry on when things like that happen.
Yeah, you do, but you also got to put yourself out there as well. I know a lot of people, the PFA and the clubs send out a list to different clubs when you're released, but if you're just waiting for a call, the chances are that may never happen. Particularly from my point of view, never played in the first team, played in reserves and youth team. So I decided, to take that initiative and make that call to try and get into a club for the following pre-season, and that's how it really worked. With obviously my first port of call was Jim Smith, and he was fantastic with me. So you've got to push yourself out there. You've got to go out and be proactive as well, and do things to make sure that you can try and secure a club. And sometimes you've got to take a step backwards to try and progress up the ladder again.
But playing in that back 4 and with Stevie Ball, in a way it was 5, and sometimes you played as far as a 5, was an amazing thing to be a part of. It has to be.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we played together, Lee Dixon, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, myself, David Seaman, Martin Keown came in, Dave O'Leary as well played games. I mean, I didn't really think about it till I'd retired, and then people just kept coming up and saying, "Oh, do you know what? You was part of that incredible back 5," and I suppose we did very, very well. But I didn't think about it that much while you were playing, because I just loved playing football.
I have to ask you this one question, just because I'm still a bit fascinated about it. Why did you take that penalty?
Because what had happened is through the season.
I like the way you straight away know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. My first season at Arsenal, League Cup final, I'd played right back for 6 months, so literally from after Christmas. I wasn't in the team to start with. Kenny Sampson was the England left back, playing left back. So George put me in at right back, and we missed a few penalties that season. And it just came that you know, that I was really the next one to stand up and say that I would take the penalty. Unfortunately, for those last few games in the league, we didn't get a penalty. And then when it came to the cup final, I mean, looking back, lots of the players that I played with have said, you know, do you know what, maybe I should have stepped forward and taken it. But you know, I was confident. I didn't have a problem, and you know, it just wasn't meant to be on the day. I missed the penalty, or it was safe, but it's still a miss. And you know, you just move on. But that made me mentally stronger, and it wanted me to go on and prove to people that you know, I could still be successful at Arsenal. So I don't really have any worries about that.
You shouldn't. You're a legend of the game, so you've got no issues with that. When you look now going forward, you just said about mentally strong. Obviously, I've got no doubt, as we all were. I shouldn't say we all were. But looking back at last Sunday, winning the FA Cup, the team, the manager, were under pressure, and this will surely make them now winners and mentally stronger going forward.
I certainly hope so. They have been under pressure for a long time. Obviously, everybody knows they've moved to the Emirates. They've lost their top players. There's no doubt about that. They've brought in some players who've done very well. Others, it hasn't quite worked out. They've been to a couple of finals. They've challenged in the league a couple of times, but they just haven't managed to secure that trophy. And that's why I believe at the weekend was so important, because once you've won something as a player, if there's anything about you, you want to go on to achieve the next thing, win something again very quickly. And I think that's what will happen with this team. If Arsene Wenger re-strengthens again in the summer, the momentum that this team's now got going forward with the belief, I think it'll surprise people again next season.
If you had to choose someone to play your position in the World Cup, who would you go for as the left back?
Well, really, I mean, they've chose Leighton Baines, haven't they? With Shaw. I mean, I've said all along, I think Ashley Cole is still the best defender. You know, if you put him on a one-on-one situation, I still think he's the top fullback in that terms. But he hasn't played, or hadn't played, for nearly 3 months. Came into the team last couple of games, played some amazing games. But I think Roy Hodgson had already made his mind up. So I'm quite happy with the two guys we've got there in Baines and Shaw. One very young, the other one's very good going forward. I don't think he's defensively as sound, Baines, but let's hope that he can deliver some important crosses or some telling through balls that justifies his position. But we've got two very strong left backs, that's for sure.
And if you have to predict how far we're going to go in the World Cup, what would you go for?
I'm going to cop out a bit and go for knockout stages. That doesn't help you a lot, does it? It really, for me, I'm so pleased with this squad because it's young, it's got game changers in it. That's what you need in your squad. It's got a nice mix of older players as well for that experience. I think there will be one young player that turns out in this World Cup tournament to be a huge star, and so I'd love to see us come out of the group. We've got a difficult group. Come out of the group and let's see where we can go. It's going to be very hard because our expectations are quite low at the moment.